happens next here. The crash site is in an area that's under rebel control. The rebels are denying any responsibility for the crash, as are the Russians. How much of an investigation can be done in what is realistically a war zone? Who will do that investigation? And what do we still expect to be able to find out about how this happened, where it originated from, and who did it? Joining us now is longtime NBC News aviation correspondent Robert Hager. Mr. Hager's been an on-the-ground reporter in passenger jet disasters, including Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie and TWA Flight 800, which crashed off Long Island 18 years ago today. Mr. Hager, thank you for being with us tonight.
Sure, Rachel, and by the way, I covered both the Soviet shoot down of the Korean passenger plane, as well as the Iranian Airbus that got shot down.
Well, it's when you look back at the history of these and you put them on one of these terrible timelines, it is remarkable that there have been so many, given that every time it happens, it sort of feels like the end of the world. Is there anything normal that we can say normally happens for things like this?
No, I mean, it's completely abnormal. When you list the different kinds of things that cause air accidents, you're thinking of weather, pilot error, navigation errors, shoot down over a military conflict, a zone of a military conflict, highly, highly unusual, but sadly, in that list you enumerated so well, it has happened too often.
Well, regardless of what causes a crash, what normally happens in the first 24 hours after a crash? What are the first steps we look to see leading into an investigation of a crash site and the wreckage itself?
Yeah, good you asked that, because people think of the normal thing as the investigators get there, they chart the wreckage very carefully, they look for the black box recorders and so forth, and all that's important when it was a normal cause of an accident. In this case, missile shoot down, it's a completely different ballgame. I mean, all you really need to do is rule out that it was some other cause, and that seems to be almost certain at this point that it was not that. And if you believe our intelligence sources so far, if we or somebody else has actual infrared satellite images of this missile being fired from the ground, and later infrared image of the score that hit on the airplane, well, there's your proof. You don't need that black boxes, and you don't need the charting of the wreckage that you would need in a normal crash. Your wreckage can tell you something about whether a missile hit the engine or so forth, but in this case, it becomes much less important than when you're looking for some mechanical thing or the kind of thing that you're looking out for in a regular aircraft investigation.
Would you expect that there could be some sort of forensic examination of that wreck? Again, as you're saying, not to learn the cause of the plane coming down. If it was a missile, then it's obvious that was it. But could there be a forensic investigation to find out the type of missile, and therefore what type of platform it might have been launched from, and therefore who might have launched it?
Yeah, you could look for fragments of the missile, for the way in which it destroyed the plane. You could do some things like that. And this requires not the ordinary kind of air accident investigators that we're used to in the United States, but specialized military people who know about that sort of thing. And then, apart from trying to determine the source of the missile, you've got the various questions of public policy about, why is an airliner still flying over a conflicted area like this? I think most of the airlines had decided to fly around there that normally use that airspace. So why Malaysian Air is flying through that airspace, even at a high altitude, is to me something of a mystery. And there ought to be something better done about the radio communications by which these civilian airliners identify themselves, or by which military planes interrogate the civilian airliner, who are you, what are you, or so forth, to avoid mistaken identities, which virtually all of these involve some accident of mistaken identification, clumsily mistaking the identity, but nonetheless mistaken identity. So there ought to be some foolproof way to get at that issue.